When you think the beef is over, Charlamagne thaw God proves once again, it never really is. In a fiery new exchange that's taking over social media. The Breakfast Club host has publicly humiliated Dame Dash over what he calls fake claims made in the mogul's latest interviews. Dame Dash, known for his bold personality and relentless self-promotion, recently made a series of controversial statements about his influence, his business empire, and his relationships in the hip-hop world. But Charlamagne wasn't having it in his signature unapologetic style. Charlamagne dissected Dame's claims one by one, calling them out as delusional, inconsistent, and straight cap. The internet exploded. Clips of Charlamagne's takedown spread like wildfire, reigniting an old feud that's been simmering since their infamous 2015 on-air confrontation, the one that changed how people saw both men forever. This latest clash isn't just about pride. It's about credibility. Dame Dash, once celebrated as a visionary behind Rockefeller Records, has spent years defending his legacy, but every new claim seems to invite more scrutiny. And Charlamagne, never one to back down, thrives on exposing contradictions. So what did Dame say this time that pushed Charlamagne over the edge? Why did this latest round hit harder than ever before? And what does it reveal about the ongoing battle between old-school industry pride and modern-day accountability? Buckle up, because this is Charlamagne at his sharpest and Dame Dash at his most defensive. When two outspoken titans of hip-hop culture collide, it's never quiet, and the ongoing feud between Charlamagne Thaw God and Dame Dash has proven that again and again. What started years ago as a fiery exchange on The Breakfast Club has turned into a long-running clash between two completely different philosophies, one rooted in old-school independence and pride, the other built on new-age accountability and media power. And now, in 2025, the fire is burning hotter than ever. In Dame Dash's recent string of interviews, he once again painted himself as the misunderstood genius, the architect of Rockefeller Records, the man who taught the culture ownership, and the one who, according to him, was always right about the industry being full of slaves to the system. It's a message that resonates with many, especially those who admire his confidence and defiance. But what set off Charlamagne this time wasn't Dame's entrepreneurial speeches. It was the exaggeration. In a recent podcast appearance, Dame claimed that he was responsible for several industry moves that insiders quickly disputed. He spoke about still owning significant stakes in multiple companies, hinted at unseen business ventures, and took credit for cultural shifts that others remember differently. Within hours, the internet fact-checkers came out in force. Screenshots, old interviews, and public records started circulating, calling his statements into question. And when Charlamagne got wind of it, he didn't hesitate to respond. On The Breakfast Club, Charlamagne devoted a segment to addressing Dame's comments head-on, with that familiar mix of sarcasm and precision. He said Dame Dash is one of those guys who talks like he's living in 2003 forever. You can't rewrite history just because you don't like how it turned out. The studio erupted in laughter. But Charlamagne wasn't joking. He continued to break down Dame's claims, point by point, explaining why they didn't align with verified facts. He didn't need to raise his voice or insult. K's tone alone was enough to sting. Charlamagne reminded listeners of how often Dame had been caught contradicting himself in interviews. One week, he'd call himself a billionaire entrepreneur with countless investments. The next, he'd admit in court filings that he was struggling financially. One moment, he was promoting unity in the culture. The next, he was tearing down everyone from Jay-Z to Liar Cohen. The inconsistency, Charlamagne argued, wasn't strength. It was confusion disguised as confidence. Social media, as always, took sides. Some agreed with Charlamagne, saying Dame Dash had lost touch with reality and was more concerned with appearing powerful than being truthful. Others defended Dame, insisting that he had every right to speak his truth, especially in an industry that often erases the contributions of Black entrepreneurs. But even among his defenders, there was a growing acknowledgement that Dame's interviews sometimes feel like performances. filled with emotion but light on evidence. This isn't the first time Charlamagne has called him out. Their infamous 2015 encounter on The Breakfast Club remains one of the most viral interviews in hip-hop media history. During that tense sit-down, Dame passionately argued that everyone should own their stuff, shaming DJ Envy and Charlamagne for working for another man. It was an intense, awkward, and deeply revealing conversation about ego and business. Charlamagne, unfazed, calmly pushed back, asking practical questions that left Dame visibly irritated. That moment became a cultural snapshot. The old-school hustler versus the modern media mind. Fast forward a decade later, and not much has changed. Dame still preaches ownership, still criticizes the industry for not recognizing his genius, and still refuses to take accountability for how his own behavior may have cost him relationships and opportunities. And Charlamagne still calls him out. When he feels those messages cross into hypocrisy, what makes this recent humiliation sting even more is the changing landscape of hip-hop and media. The world Dame Dash once dominated has evolved. The industry now celebrates transparency, receipts, and factual credibility. Fans are smarter, they fact-check everything. You can't just make bold claims without proof anymore. And that's exactly where Charlamagne thrives. He represents this new era, one where truth, no matter how uncomfortable, outweighs reputation. During his latest rant, Charlamagne pointed out how Dame's fake claims hurt his credibility more than his enemies ever could. He said, "When you build your image on being real, lying even a little bit makes the whole foundation crumble." That line cut deep. For years, Dame Dash's brand has been realness, unfiltered, unbothered, and untouchable. To be accused of inauthenticity by someone like Charlamagne, who has built a career on reading people, publicly hits at the core of his identity. Fans began reposting old clips of Dame contradicting himself. One, where he claimed to have no problem with Jay-Z, followed by another where he called Jay a culture vulture. Memes flooded timelines, showing Charlamagne's face superimposed over a teacher's body, schooling Dame on how not to destroy your own legacy. Still, for all the mockery, there's a sad truth buried in this feud. Dame Dash isn't the villain he's made out to be. He's a man who helped shape hip-hop history, who fought for independence before it was trendy, and who genuinely believed that he could change how artists were treated. His downfall isn't about arrogance, it's about not evolving. The world moved forward, but Dame stayed in a time where being loud and proud was enough. In today's era of receipts, you can't just say you're a boss, you have to prove it. Charlamagne knows this. That's why he continues to confront figures like Dame. To him, calling out falsehoods isn't personal. It's about keeping the culture honest, whether people agree with his tone or not. There's no denying that he forces uncomfortable conversations that need to happen by the end of that Breakfast Club segment. It was clear Charlamagne had once again come out on top in this public battle. Not because he yelled louder, but because his arguments were grounded in reality. Dame's response, however, was predictable. Hours later, he went live on Instagram, calling Charlamagne a puppet, accusing him of tearing down black men for clicks. But the more he ranted, the more people saw frustration rather than strength. As part one closes, the stage is set for another intense round in this never-ending cultural clash. It's more than a fight between two men, it's a fight between two mindsets. On one side, a proud visionary clinging to the past. On the other, a media icon demanding truth in the present. And once again, Charlamagne thought God has proven that when it comes to accountability, even legends aren't safe. By the time Charlamagne's latest takedown of Dame Dash went viral, the entire hip-hop community was watching. Clips from the Breakfast Club segment had flooded TikTok, Twitter, or X, and YouTube within hours. Charlamagne didn't just check Dame, he deconstructed him, point by point, using receipts, clips, and facts that left fans stunned. What made this moment even more explosive was how calm Charlamagne was while doing it. There was no shouting, no dramatic insults, just surgical precision. In his own words, Charlamagne said, "You can't rewrite your story every time someone challenges you. If you're real, the facts don't need editing. That single quote hit hip-hop Twitter like a sledgehammer. Comment sections lit up with laughter, memes, and shock. Some compared Charlamagne's tone to that of a disappointed professor calling out a student who hadn't done his homework. Others called it poetic justice. Given how Dame Dash once tried to publicly belittle Charlamagne on The Breakfast Club a decade ago, to understand the weight of this new humiliation, you have to rewind to their first encounter. Back in 2015, Dame Dash stormed into The Breakfast Club with his trademark arrogance, calling out radio hosts for not being bosses. He berated DJ Envy and Charlamagne for working for a company, saying real men own their empires. The interview went viral not just because of what Dame said, but because of how Charlamagne responded. Calm, analytical, unbothered. Even when Dame tried to dominate the room, Charlamagne's composure turned the tables. He didn't need to outshell him. He simply outsmarted him. That same energy returned in 2025, only now. Charlamagne had the receipts, the data, and a decade of credibility behind him. This time, Dame wasn't the confident disruptor. He was the loud echo of a past that no longer intimidated anyone. Dame Dash's interviews in recent months had drawn attention for all the wrong reasons. He claimed ownership over projects long sold, bragged about partnerships that had dissolved, and even took shots at people who once supported him. To fans who grew up respecting his hustle, it was uncomfortable to watch. His words no longer inspired, they sounded like desperation wrapped in ego. Charlamagne seized on that contradiction. On his radio show, he said, "It's sad because Dame had a real message once. Ownership, independence, self-respect, all of that mattered. But now he's so busy protecting his pride that he's losing his credibility." That statement divided the audience. Some felt Charlamagne was being unnecessarily harsh, turning a cultural icon into a punchline. But others applauded him for saying what needed to be said, that sometimes legends become their own worst enemies. Behind the scenes, industry insiders agreed. Many quietly admitted that while Dame's early legacy was undeniable co-founding, Rockefeller Records, and helping launch Jay-Z's empire, his downfall began when he refused to evolve. The same attitude that once made him a visionary eventually made him impossible to work with. And in today's media-driven world where transparency is king, arrogance without accountability doesn't sell anymore. Charlamagne's entire brand is built on confronting that arrogance. His interviews have always been a mix of therapy and truth serum designed to strip away pretense. Whether it's Kanye West, Birdman, or now Dame Dash, he has a knack for exposing contradictions that others are too afraid to touch. But this time, it wasn't just a clash of personalities, it was generational. Dame Dash represents the old-school hustler mentality. I did it my way. No apologies. Charlamagne represents a new wave of thinkers who believe in reflection, growth, and accountability. When these two energies collide, sparks always fly. The public humiliation reached new heights when The Breakfast Club released a segment on YouTube titled, "Charlamagne Calls Out Dame Dash for His Lies." Again, the title alone drew millions of views in less than 24 hours. Commenters flooded the video with mixed emotions. Some mocked Dame, writing things like, "Charlamagne gave him the verbal fade again." Others defended Dame, insisting that Charlamagne was using his platform to tear down Black excellence. But in many ways, that argument misses the point. What Charlamagne was really challenging wasn't Dame's race, hustle, or legacy. It was his integrity. The truth matters, especially when your entire image is built on being the real one. As the episode continued, Charlamagne broke down how Dame's repeated self-mythologizing had turned into a pattern. He played back clips of Dame contradicting himself across different interviews, one claiming to still own Rockefeller shares, another admitting that he sold his stake years ago. He highlighted how Dame once said he doesn't chase clout, yet constantly returns to the same old stories just to stay relevant. At some point, Charlamagne said, "You can't keep blaming the system, Jay-Z, or the culture. If everyone you worked with is gone and you're still the common denominator, maybe the problems That line instantly trended. Screenshots of it spread across social media, with fans calling it one of Charlamagne's coldest truths. For Dame Dash, it was another public blow to a reputation already bruised by years of bad press and failed ventures. In response, Dame once again took to Instagram Live, his favorite battlefield, and ranted for nearly an hour. He accused Charlamagne of being a corporate mouthpiece, claimed he was jealous of real entrepreneurs, and even hinted that big money was behind the smear campaign. But the longer he spoke, the less convincing he sounded. Viewers flooded his comments section with e-roll emojis, cap memes, and laughing reactions. The more he tried to defend himself, the more it looked like he was spiraling. Charlamagne, meanwhile, didn't even bother responding directly. He didn't have to. The internet had already crowned him the winner. Publications like Complex XL and The Source ran headlines like "Charlamagne exposes Dame Dash again," and "When old school pride meets new school facts." The narrative was sealed. Charlamagne wasn't just humiliating Dame Dash, he was dismantling a myth. Still, beneath all the drama, there's a deeper conversation happening here, one about authenticity in hip-hop culture. For decades, the industry has glorified the boss mentality. Men who call the shots, who never bow down, who dominate every room they enter. But the culture is evolving. Fans now value honesty more than bravado, vulnerability over vanity. And that's where Dame Dash struggles most. He refuses to admit that even kings must adapt, as part 2 draws to a close. The irony is hard to ignore. Dame once accused others of being slaves to corporations, yet now he's trapped by his own image, a prisoner of pride. And Charlamagne, who once played defense in their exchanges, now sits comfortably as the voice of truth, controlling the narrative with precision. The war between these two isn't just about ego anymore. It's about legacy. And when the truth becomes the battlefield, only one man can win. By the time the dust began to settle, one thing was clear. Charlamagne thought God had once again outmaneuvered Dame Dash, not just in words, but in perception. What began as a series of rebuttals had become a defining cultural moment, a modern-day clash between authenticity and ego, truth and nostalgia. And as much as Dame tried to reclaim his power through emotional tirades and long-winded interviews, the court of public opinion had already delivered its verdict. The story wasn't just trending, it was dominating. Every hip-hop outlet, commentary page, and podcast was discussing the feud. Was Charlamagne right to call him out again? Or did he go too far? The debate reignited questions about Dame Dash's legacy. Was he still the respected visionary who built Arosayafella? Or had he become a relic of his own myth, a man too proud to evolve with time? Charlamagne knew the weight of what he was doing. His entire approach wasn't just to humiliate Dame, it was to hold a mirror up to him. On a later Brilliant Idiots podcast episode, he explained his reasoning. "I got respect for Dame. I'll never take away what he did for the culture. But the problem is when people start believing their own propaganda. When you keep saying things that ain't true, you turn into a caricature of yourself. A caricature of yourself." That statement summed up the entire dynamic between them. Dame Dash built his career on being larger than life, a man who turned arrogance into branding. But that kind of energy only works when people still believe you're winning. Once the world sees cracks in your armor, the financial struggles, the broken partnerships, the endless interviews defending yourself, confidence starts looking like denial in 2025. Credibility is currency, and Charlamagne is rich in it. Over the past decade, he's evolved from a shock jock into one of the most respected media figures in hip-hop journalism. His transformation from controversy to consciousness made him the perfect foil for someone like Dame Dash, who's remained frozen in time. Charlamagne represents accountability, nuance, and growth. Dame represents defiance, nostalgia, and unfiltered pride. That clash of energies was inevitable. The latest interview clips, where Dame doubled down on his ownership narrative, showed him, insisting that he still inspires people to be bosses. And while that's true to a degree, It also revealed how trapped he is in his own slogan. The irony. The new generation of bosses he claims to have inspired, podcasters, YouTubers, influencers, now look up to people like Charlamagne, not him. They see Charlamagne as proof that you can challenge the system and evolve, while Dame remains proof that you can't build your future living in the past on one particularly viral response. Charlamagne said, "Dame's biggest problem is that he thinks being loud equals being right. It doesn't. You can scream ownership all day, but if nobody wants to work with you, you're just owning silence." That line broke the internet. It was quoted everywhere from memes to motivational posts because it hit a nerve. In an age where being your own boss has become a social media mantra, Charlamagne's words felt like a reality check. Success isn't about how many times you shout it. It's about results. And that's what Dame's recent claims failed to deliver. Results. Fans, once inspired by his raw energy, are now left questioning whether the passion that once fueled him has turned into bitterness. Many noted that while he accuses others of selling out, he's been selling the same story for years, the same anger, the same speeches, the same "I told you so." Meanwhile, Charlamagne continues to evolve. He's built multiple platforms, written best-selling books, invested in mental health initiatives, and transformed his media presence into something powerful. His ability to mix entertainment with introspection has earned him respect across generations. Something Dame Dash could have had if he'd chosen reflection over retaliation. Still, there's a certain tragedy in Dame's downfall. No one can deny that he helped shape a cultural revolution. He discovered and nurtured talent, created a new definition of Black ownership in the early 2000s, and inspired countless artists to take control of their careers. But now, those accomplishments are constantly overshadowed by his confrontational attitude. Every time he lashes out, he chips away at his own legacy. In one of the final segments, Charlamagne addressed. He said, "I don't hate Dame. I hate seeing what happens when pride goes unchecked. He could still be a mentor, still be a force in the game, but you can't mentor anyone if you refuse to learn." That's the essence of Charlamagne's critique. It's not rooted in hate. It's rooted in truth. Dame Dash is a symbol of what happens when wisdom doesn't evolve with time. His message, ownership, integrity, independence still matters. But it's buried under years of defensiveness and contradictions. For fans, watching this feud unfold is bittersweet. On one hand, it's entertaining to media giants battling it out publicly with quotable lines and viral moments. On the other, it's disheartening because beneath the ego, there's pain, regret, and wasted potential. You can feel that deep down. Both men still respect each other's impact, even if they'll never admit it. As part 3 closes, the contrast between the two couldn't be clearer. Charlamagne stands as a figure of evolution, someone who faced his flaws and came out wiser. Dame Dash stands as a warning, someone who clung so tightly to pride that it became his prison. Their feud isn't just a clash of personalities. It's a reflection of hip-hop itself, a culture torn between the old guard and the new. Between rawness and responsibility, between being right and being real. And as the final echoes of this latest humiliation fade, one truth remains undeniable. In the battle between noise and knowledge, Charlamagne saw God reign supreme. He didn't just embarrass Dame Dash. He taught him a lesson the industry's been trying to teach for years. Credibility is the new currency. And once you lose it, all the shouting in the world can't buy it back before you click away. Take a second to really think about what this feud represents. This isn't just another viral spat between two big egos. It's a snapshot of hip-hop's evolution. A reminder of what happens when pride refuses to grow and when truth finally catches up to the legend. Charlamagne the God versus Dame Dash isn't about who shouted louder. It's about who adapted and who didn't. Charlamagne showed that in today's world. Your greatest weapon isn't arrogance, it's authenticity. You can't rewrite your story with half-truths and nostalgia. You have to stand on real receipts, real growth, and real accountability. That's why he keeps winning these exchanges, because facts don't flinch. And the truth always finds its mic. Dame Dash will forever be remembered as a pioneer. But his story is also a warning. Success doesn't freeze time. No matter how powerful your legacy, it can fade if you refuse to evolve. So here's your takeaway. Whether you're chasing a dream, building a brand, or trying to make your mark, remember this: the loudest voice isn't always the most honest one. Learn, grow, adapt, and stay humble enough to accept when the game is changed. If this deep dive opened your eyes, hit that follow, drop a comment, and share your thoughts below. Let's keep the conversation going, because in this culture, truth isn't just entertainment. It's survival. It's survival.